I'm Van Sebastian, here with my co-host S.A. Baz Collins for this week's Written on the Edge Season 9, Episode 29 interview. We'll be talking with Jerry Wheeler and discussing his long-awaited novel, Mercedes General. So if you haven't heard his previous interviews, let's get to know our guest. Jerry L. Wheeler is an editor of gay fiction and erotica, whose own fiction and essays have been awarded a spot on the shortlist for the Lambda Literary Award. He lives in Denver, Colorado, where he maintains his review blog out in print, continues his editing business Write and Shine, and keeps on writing for us to read. Jerry, welcome back to the show.
Thank you for the opportunity to be here. I always like talking to you guys.
Our pleasure. So, for those who haven't heard those first interviews, real quick, how did you enter into the literary life? Like, what drew you to words on page?
Edgar Allan Poe,
Ooh.
beginning when I was a kid, and then about 23, 25 years ago, after having spent some time doing entertainment journalism, and getting a journalism degree and working on various papers as a stringer, I decided that I wanted to try my hand at fiction. So I wrote a story about a woman who gets obsessed by a guy that she sees every day on their daily commute in their individual cars going down the freeway. And I tried and tried and tried and could not sell that to anybody. And then I thought to myself, maybe I should just like stop hiding this, and make it a gay guy and another guy. And that turned out to be the thing that sold the story. I had also joined a writers group in Denver, and one of the other guys in the writers group, Matt Cayley, transsexual guy, he took me back, took me aside, and he's like, I read about this call for stories about obsessions, by Greg Wharton and Ian Phillips, and I'm like, okay, well, he's like, I think we should both submit to this, and so we did. We both submitted, and 2 days later, I heard back from Greg, and I opened the email, and I'm like, oh, they're coming back sooner than even usual. It's only 2 days. And he was like, we loved it and we want to publish it. That was my first publication. Matt didn't get in.
Oh, oh.
So yeah, and it was just from then I just started doing things and more writing. And then I hooked up with Saints and Sinners, the literary conference in New Orleans,
Yay.
and made a lot of contacts and
Hmm.
started my way in the industry.
That's awesome. So last time you were on, you teased that this project we're about to talk about was coming to a point of being published, and it is finally out. Mercedes
Yes,
General, beautiful
yes.
book. For those who don't know, you said it was 23 years in the making.
Yeah, it was.
Can we hear that story?
It was. Well, okay, so the idea came to me at my late partner's funeral. The rabbi was talking about um, how people's lives are shaped by the deaths that they experience.
Hmm.
And even though I was grieving, and at that time it was like the headstone unveiling, which is like a year from where the actual funeral is. At that time, I was like well enough along in the grief process so that my writer's brain kicked in, and I'm like, oh, I think I hear a book here. So my idea originally was to do a bunch of flashbacks about these guys that had been together for like 40, 50 years, showing, illustrating points that people had died along their track,
Hmm.
along their, in their life. Um, but the frame story that I tried to surround the flashbacks with never worked. It always sounded contrived, or there was something that was wrong with it. They didn't quite fit the flashbacks. So I managed to struggle through and finish a draft and read it and said, God, that's terrible. But the flashbacks are pretty good. Um, and then I just like drawered it. I mean, I threw it in the drawer and just didn't think about it. Although I would go back to it occasionally and either write a flashback or try to pound something into shape. And then I wrote, I then I kind of had a career. Uh,
Kind of
Oh, and that
little
gets in the way, you know.
little thing going on here and there.
And after Pangs was finished, I was looking around for another project, and I'm like, well, what about these flashbacks? So I read them, and I'm like, well, they tell a story. I don't know. So, and I, at this point, 20 years plus, I have totally lost any pretense of objectivity that I would have had about this thing. So I basically sent them to Sven Davison at Rebel Satori and said, here, do you think, can we publish these? Is this a book? What is this? And Sven said, he's like, yeah, this is a great bunch of linked short stories. He's like, it's short. We need probably about 30,000 more words. But yeah, we could do this. And I said, okay, fine. So I sat down to write the last 30,000 words, which took me a long time,
Mhm.
longer than I thought it would. So, but I finally finished it and got it done. And Sven's like, great, we will finish it. We will do it.
And ta-da, out in
And
the
ta-da.
world now. You have the cover to
Yes,
show folks?
yes. And yeah,
Nice.
right
Look at
here.
that beautiful cover.
Yes. Well, there's a story connected with a cover too.
Oh,
Okay.
As I mentioned in the introduction, I said, I've learned my lesson that I will never, ever tell anybody about a project in my biography that's not already done. Because in every bio that I've done from for the last 20 years, the dead book is coming. It's coming in 2011, it's coming in 2015,
Right, right,
it's
right,
coming
right,
in
right. Yeah,
2017,
yeah.
yep.
until it's just forthcoming. Uh, you know, so once it finally got out, right? So I'm thinking to myself, okay, well, I'm needing a cover. So I went to my go-to cover guy, Matt Bright of Ink Spiral Designs.
Hmm.
He's a wonderful guy based
Wonderful.
in.
Yeah.
Yep.
He's a great cover artist and a really nice human being too. So I said, okay, so it's called The Dead Book, and this is what it's about. And he's like, okay, fine. So as he does, he sent me like 7 drafts of 7 different kinds of covers, and all of them were very striking, but none of them said anything about what the book was about.
Hmm.
So I'm like, okay, so it's definitely a garbage in, garbage out situation. Matt's work is good enough so that if I give him what he needs to begin with, I'll get what I want.
Right.
Right,
So
right.
at this point, I'm like, okay, I've got to change the title. So I changed the title to the longest and one of the two last stories that were written for the book, which is about the AIDS crisis. Um, and I said, okay, so we're calling it Mercedes General. Here's a scene that I want you to illustrate on the cover. And I gave him some very specific instructions about what I needed. And boom, there it is. It was the very first draft of the very set of things that he sent me. I was like, that's it. I knew it. I knew it the
Yep.
second I saw
Nice. I love that.
it.
And yeah, he's fantastic. We've talked to him on the show. He's a great guy.
He's
Um,
terrific.
so what readers need to know is unlike other collections of short stories, these are all follow the lives of your two main characters. They're just separated by decades, right?
Right, right. And the thing is that since I've had this out and actually called it a book of linked short stories, I've had several people come to me and say, it's really not. It's a novel. It's
Yeah.
just a novel with, a lot of time jumps between the chapters, and the chapters have titles.
And
And
the
I'm like,
location's a
okay.
character, right?
So I'm thinking to myself, maybe this is how I approach writing a novel, is to do it in little chunks that I
Chunks.
can call short stories.
Hmm.
Mm.
So I don't know. I'm my next project is going to be something that's very similar to this in some ways. We can get to that later.
Okay.
Um, but it's going to be probably
Tease.
written in the same way.
All right. And it covers all of the emotions involved in a relationship, humor, loss, love, erotica, all of it.
Yes, yes, with the exception of erotica.
Okay.
there were some sex scenes actually in the first few drafts of these short stories, but with with the with jiggling the timeline
Hmm.
here and there, and some of those things were not age appropriate anymore.
Mm.
So I had to take those out, and which is fine because I actually think that it made it a stronger book because there is no sex on the page here.
Hmm.
Um, but then again, that's not the focus. That's
Right.
not the focus
Right,
here.
right.
Okay. Baz, do you have any questions?
No, I'm just wondering if it's like, because there are other books that seem to have this kind of same theme. And by the way, when you said took you 23 years, I thought, okay, you don't have to write fellow travelers in real time, right?
Well, oddly enough, one of the ones that I can think of was is a book called Hart Island,
Hmm.
Hart Island by Gary Zebron. And I met him at Saints and Sinners last year, and it's about this family on Staten Island, who's the breadwinner of the family, was tossed out of the Coast Guard in the Don't Ask, Don't Tell days, and the only job that he can get is piloting the boat that takes dead people and a burial crew from the New York City mainland out to Hart Island, where they buried the dead in the sort of a potter's field. And that was in to find that one, which is a bunch of um, individually titled chapters that tell a story.
Hmm.
To find that one so soon after mine, I'm like, oh, this guy and I, we are like this. We know exactly what we're talking about.
Well, the question I have is kind of like, I mean, because there's another one like called Christadora by Tim Murphy, which is place set and all the stories. Well, it's almost like, even like Only Murders in the Building, which is a TV series, but it's like, is the place a sort of character in that everything takes place there?
Yeah, what is Mercy General in your book?
Yeah.
Okay. Mercedes General is it's a reference to the title story, and the title story is about oh, sidebar, hang on. What? Are you gonna photobomb me? Okay.
That's okay. My cat's right here, so we could do a drama now.
Are you done? Are you done? Okay. Go. Go. Come on. Go, Riley. Go. God. Anyway, what was I talking about?
So what is Mercedes General?
Okay. All right. So we could go back now. Um, my character, I wanted to do something. You can't do something about 40 years worth of gay life in this point without having hit the AIDS epidemic. And so that was what I knew that I needed to do that. And I didn't know how I wanted to approach that because I wanted to approach it not necessarily with more positivity, but at least have a more wholesome outcome. So, and I didn't want to put these guys in ACT UP because whenever you think about New York City and AIDS,
That's out
that's
of, yeah.
that's automatically where your head
Yeah,
goes
that's the
Right,
default.
is to ACT UP.
right.
And I'm like, there were other ways that people made a difference at that time. So basically, these guys back into establishing their home as an AIDS hospice for a bunch of guys that have no other place to go.
Right.
And it does end on a very positive note that everybody else, that they actually have to shut the thing down. Oh, hang on, sidebar. I probably shouldn't say that, should
Not if it's a spoiler.
I? No, I don't think I don't think I want to do that.
Okay.
What was the last thing that I said?
Would you want to take it up from hospice?
Yeah, okay. So they back into starting an AIDS hospice. comprised of guys they that are tossed their way that they happened upon. Um, and it's very nice and it's very positive. And at the end, um, it doesn't leave you with a horrible feeling. It does make you cry, but it doesn't leave you with a horrible feeling. It makes you think that this is going to go on and things are going to get better.
Nice. Very nice. All right, Jerry, is there anything else about the book you want folks to know that we didn't think to ask?
Um, no, no, I don't. Just give it a try. Go out and buy it. It's certainly my last book was a genre exercise, and this is totally different, which is really it was odd for me getting this out there because it's like it's not about vampires.
Right?
It's totally
You know,
different from the last thing that I've done. It's like I got to sell this to a whole bunch of different people, and
Nice.
that's a daunting proposition.
Hmm.
absolutely.
Well, to help along those lines, I mean, I'm assuming you can buy it at all the usual places, but we highly encourage people to go to Rebel Satori's website and buy it there.
Yes,
Support
indeed.
support the press in every way possible.
Yes, indeed.
All right.
That part.
Are you ready for our get to know you questions?
Sure.
Take it away, Bess.
All right. So, in this year of diving deeper, what's your favorite writing snack or drink?
Sweet or savory?
Either we choose.
For a snack, it's usually Parmesan or cheddar goldfish.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
yeah, I know it's very 12-year-old, but
No, you would be surprised how many YouTube channels there are of Brits eating goldfish for the first time. I'm just saying.
really, I
All
like
right.
the Brit one where they do the chicken and the biscuits.
Yeah, yeah, that's
That was
another one.
great.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
was great.
All right. So, what books did you read growing up?
What books did I read growing up? I started out with Edgar Allan Poe with an abridged copy of Poe short stories, and from then on, my reading when I was in high school grew into like two different stalks. On this one hand, I had sci-fi horror, so
Okay.
it's like Heinlein,
Right.
Asimov, Ray Bradbury. Ray Bradbury was a hero of mine, still is. Um, and on the other stock was this weird countercultural thing, like Lenny Bruce's How to Talk Dirty and Influence People,
Mm,
William Burroughs, Ginsberg, the almost the entire beat kind of thing. So those were my two. Those were two two of the roads that did definitely diverge.
okay. Okay. Well, who's been the biggest supporter of your writing?
um, wow. I don't know anybody that I've known for that long. My housemate Rick is pretty supportive. He
Oh,
has
that's
to
good.
be because he's the one that lives with me and knows that when I occasionally forget household details, that I'm probably thinking about a plot point or something.
Ah, okay. All right. Fair enough. All right. So, are you a morning person or a night owl?
Yes,
I
As
don't I
needs
and
don't
it's an
sleep
be.
awful
anymore.
combination. Let me tell you. In the afternoons, I'm not worth shit.
I'm right there with you. 1 to 3, my power nap. Right over
There
here on my
you
bed.
go.
All right. So, what's your favorite hobby outside of writing?
Music. I love collecting it. I love listening to it. Unfortunately, I have zero talent in that respect at all. I have tried playing the piano, I've
But you
tried
know what
playing
you
the
like.
guitar, and no, it's just not in here, and it's not in here.
Okay, fair enough. All right. So, has writing and publishing books helped change the way you see yourself?
I'll change the way I see myself. No, help validate the way I see myself. Yes.
Okay,
Nice.
nice twist on that. I like it. All right. If you were to write a spin-off about a side character in your books, which one would you pick? Choose amongst your favorite children. They're all listening.
They really
You
all
can
are.
feel your characters lean in.
They really all are. Is it me? Is it me? Is it me? Um, I actually think that I could do something with. Okay, so my protagonists are Kent and Spencer, and when they go back for the matriarch's funeral, which is the very last chapter in the book, they encounter their nephew, um, Chris, who is a very interesting by photographer, artist kind of guy. And I think that might be an avenue that I could go down that wouldn't that would provide some new material. I think that would be an interesting spin-off character. But I actually, having done these people for 20 years, I don't want to see them again. I never want to type these names again in my entire life.
Right. Okay.
Nice.
Have you ever traveled as research for your book?
Um, I've traveled
Well,
as
I should
solid
put research. I should put research in quotes.
Um, I think when I travel, which is usually to New Orleans, that is always it's such a fertile atmosphere. It's such a creative atmosphere. Not only the place that I'm at mentally when I'm in New Orleans, because I'm always there for the conference, but just spiritually, emotionally, physically, it's such a place that engenders creativity and ideas, that I can't travel to that sort of atmosphere and not be moved by it, in a writerly way.
Well, final question. How do you celebrate when you finish a book?
Do you ever really finish a book?
I know the next cast of characters in the wings ready to enter stage.
Exactly. Champagne.
Okay,
Usually
Nice.
champagne after dinner.
there you go.
Nice.
And then we're like, well, champagne doesn't really, do well if you keep it in the fridge. So we just have to finish the bottle.
But that's right. That's right. That's how it's done. Well, you made it through the list. Bravo.
So you teased us with an upcoming project. Now's the time. What's it about?
I am working on a short. Saints and Sinners, the conference in New Orleans, does a fiction contest every year.
Mhm.
That Rebel Satori usually publishes the winners, and the runners up. So I'm doing a short story for them this year that has to do with sin eaters and synchronized masturbation.
Wow.
I'm not even going to ask how that came together.
I'm not even going to point out that was a very apropos. That's a very apropos way of putting that, Dan.
Ba-dum-bum.
I'll be here all week.
So, if folks want to follow you or contact you about editing work, where are the best websites?
My editing website, Write and Shine. You can contact me at the book review blog, Queer out in print Queer Book Reviews.
Mm-hmm.
I'm on Facebook, Jerry L. Wheeler. I'm on Instagram, JW Den. I used to be on Twitter, but no more.
Yeah,
Fair. Totally fair.
Yeah.
All right. Any final words of wisdom?
I have none. If I had words of wisdom, I'd use them.
right. Well, there you go.
Truly.
There you go.
All right, folks, we'd like to extend a huge thank you to Jerry Wheeler for joining us. Jerry, thank you so much for coming back.
Thanks for having me again. I really appreciate you guys very
Anytime.
much. You guys do a great
Anytime.
service.
It is our pleasure. All right, folks, we at Written on the Edge are proud to introduce you to new media by queer content creators. So if you enjoy learning about new artists or hearing our thoughts on entertainment media, please like and subscribe so you get the alerts for new episodes. The show was produced by Rogue Ravens Media. For our disclaimers, links to social media, our list of stations, or to sign up as a guest, visit www.roguepodcast.com. Tune in next week for your queer media fix.
Bye-bye now.
What's that?
Closing time. The bums rush in melody, dear.